Hey friends, before we get started today, I want to share something really special that I have been hard at work on behind the scenes, a special announcement just for you listeners. As a parent, we spend so much time helping our kids through the busy parts of the day, school, homework, activities, but sometimes the quietest moments, like bedtime, can be the hardest to slow down for. That's why I have created Tales of Grace, the Nightlight series, a brand new bedtime podcast for kids and families. Each episode is a gentle story, a classic poem designed to help little ones unwind, spark their imagination, and end the day with a sense of peace and wonder. You can listen free every Tuesday wherever you get your podcasts, or if you would like early access to the full first season, ad-free listening, some bonus holiday stories, classic chapters, you can join our Nightlight Access membership through Supercast. To celebrate the launch, I am offering 25% off of your first year for anyone who subscribes before November the 3rd. You'll even unlock the first 3 stories right away, and then November 4th, the entire season will automatically appear in your favorite podcast app. Just head over to talesofgrace.supercast.com to subscribe. I will also link it in the show notes below so you can click to follow. I am so excited to share this new project with you, and I hope it brings a little calm, connection, and magic to your family's night. All right, now let's get back to today's episode. You're listening to Co-Parenting with Grace, the podcast for families raising kids across 2 homes. I'm your host, Jody Grace, wife, bonus mom, professional peacekeeper, and your teammate in this beautiful work of co-parenting. So put that red lipstick on, Grace family, and let's get into it. Welcome back to Co-Parenting with Grace. If you caught part 1 of my conversation with my boy's biological mom, Kelly Rush, then you know we left off right before everything changed. In this second half, we are diving into the real turning point, the moment that shifted our relationship and opened the door to trust, laughter, and healing. And just a heads up, this episode is raw. I left it that way on purpose. You'll hear coughs, mic bumps, little background noises, but that's real life. I wanted you to feel like you were sitting right there with us, hearing 2 moms talk through years of history, growth, and grace, unfiltered. So, grab your coffee. We're going to tie this thing up with a bow today. Let's get into it. Okay, co-mother, how do you feel after part 1?
I feel really good. I feel like we, had to get some of those stickier, more emotionally charged stories out there.
Yeah.
I think it's really important to know where we came from to be able to kind of see and make sense of where we are today.
Absolutely. And I know you talked about how, that was kind of a hard episode because we had to, for me, I had to it was kind of like sitting in a therapy session with a new therapist where you've got to dig up some old things that hurt or were hard to talk about and you have made peace with, but they still hurt, right? So you have to bring those things up. And so having to kind of go back and reopen some of those doors that we have now closed. We have now tied a bow on the door, hung it up, it still hits some tender places. And so it's not easy, but I'm so proud of the conversations we had. I know you mentioned, that for you, those things we talked about in the first episode are not things you resonate with anymore.
Right. Yeah. Having to, again, feeling like it was important to be relatable.
Yeah.
In that sense of the struggles that we went to. But it was really interesting when I was trying to answer these questions of like, those feelings are just even hard for me to recreate, or at least trying to convey the feelings that I had at the time. Because now I can look back at those situations and know where those were really coming from.
Right.
And even though I had feelings that were projecting onto you, it doesn't resonate anymore because it had more to do with me.
Right.
And, so those are now just circumstances that I look back and see where I've grown from.
Oh man, how you see where you've learned, how you took those experiences and how they shape how you're able to show up and respond today and react today. Let's take a short break so you can hear my special announcement. Welcome to Tales of Grace, the Nightlight series, a place where the night is alive with wonder. If you love a good bedtime tale, there's a special place where you can hear even more by becoming a Nightlight Access VIP member at talesofgrace.supercast.com. There you will unlock early access to the entire first season of ad-free listening, and throughout the year, you can enjoy a few extra bedtime surprises like holiday stories, classic chapters, and other bonuses along the way. Join before November 4th and you'll receive 25% off your first year. Now drift off with me every night, where your eyes will be heavy, your dreams be bright, your heart will be calm, and your imagination wide awake. Now back to our episode. So we talked last week about the weeds that we have walked through to get to the other side. Talk to me about how you would describe our relationship today compared to the early years. What are some big ways you think we have evolved?
Well, the biggest way is that we have a relationship.
Yeah.
A real relationship. We dwelled at very surface level, arm's length, which wasn't bad. Right? We weren't doing anything that...
Put the microphone up a little bit there.
We weren't doing anything that was a massive violation to each other, but we were just coexisting.
Yeah, it wasn't working toward a peaceful, more smooth. It was just pretty parallel.
Very parallel. And just coexisting.
Yeah.
And so the big difference is that we do have, in fact, a relationship in all sense of the word.
Yeah. Absolutely. Which has changed everything for us. Everything. To be honest. Yeah. I think that our desire to have that is what catapulted us both into this personal healing journey. That you and I both had a desire to have that type of a relationship. And that's what drove the personal healing that has brought us to where we are.
Well, yeah. And personal healing allowed us to align in what we believe about each other today, how we choose to show up for each other today, but also you can probably see it in all areas of your life. So it affects everything.
For sure.
And so it gave us permission to
live.
Yeah, to have this. And actually going into that next question, just to kind of caveat off that, is what does respect look like when two women share the same children? Yeah. And that was exactly what thought I had put down on paper, is that respect gives you permission to be the mother that you want to be without my judgment.
Right.
But even before you get to that, how could I even offer you respect in the, universal way of you can offer a stranger respect. You can offer, which is
Right.
the typical, you can be who you want to be. You can make the choices that you want to make. You can do, all this stuff. But how could I truly respect you if I didn't know you?
Yeah.
I could say, oh, well, I let her come to appointments. That's respect. But I didn't know you.
Yeah. We were going through motions.
Yeah. So to give true respect for who you are at the core, I needed to know who you are at the core.
Yeah, absolutely. And like we say, that desire is what has led us to the healing that we've been allowed to do. We gave ourselves permission to heal enough to welcome that. And that conversation that we had in the living room, when I told you that we were going to I was going to do this podcast, I think that was a really great, that was a vulnerable conversation for you. I think I've always been more of an open book.
Yeah.
I've been, I am in all aspects of my life. I am not afraid to, it's not necessarily, it's not confrontational, but I'm not afraid of confronting something. I'm not afraid of yes, my birth chart. So I'm not afraid to
Speak skillfully.
Yeah, speak skillfully. Bring something up, and I'm the let's hit it head on kind of person. But I felt like that was really brave of you in that moment, because you were like, okay, if we're gonna do this, I've got to be able to say my truths. If we're gonna speak authentically to the masses, I've got to be able to be authentic with you. I've got to tell you things I haven't told you yet. And, it's brave to get that raw. And you were able to say some things that you had never said before because you feared how they would be perceived, or you feared the outcome that might take place if you were honest. So tell me a little about how that felt for you.
Yeah. So I feel like on my personal journey, right, we had kind of been more distant in conversations. And then what it kind of felt like was, then there was this idea of, let's do this podcast.
Yeah.
And it was scary, because I thought, I am a typical placater, and I had been playing that role very diligently in our dynamic.
Right.
And so it was like, oh no, I never had the feeling of where I didn't want you to do something that you wanted to do, a podcast. But I felt like, oh, I might have misled her, though, that, she thinks that we're on this playing field that I have allowed to believe, but I don't actually
believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. Believe some of those. Or no, I mean, actually, that's kind of hard to say, because I was at a different place when we had our conversation about the podcast. So, it's all about timing. And so, but I wanted to make sure that if this was something that was going to happen, I felt like I probably needed to come clean about some of the things I felt, or the fear of how I was going to be, what word am I looking for? Perceived or portrayed. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And so, and I think the biggest thing was that I you're right. I held my cards very close, and I was really nervous to tell you, to expose mahjong term.
Yeah.
I was nervous to expose my hand because I wasn't quite for sure where that was going to. And at that point, you kind of have these two decisions. Like, you were the buffer in this dynamic, and a part of me was just like, oh, I don't want to lose that. But I also was at a point in my journey where I knew that is not your job.
Right.
Your purpose in life is not to be my buffer.
Right.
For something that I don't want to encounter or endure or whatever. And so I had to also acknowledge that I had you in a position, in a job that isn't yours to even carry.
Right.
And so I knew that I was going to have to expose that that particular area.
Yeah.
And confess some of those feelings that I kept hidden.
Yeah.
Like, being torn up about text threads to teachers. You were in a state of unawareness. We were just moving along. That was just something that I suffered in silence.
Right.
Right. And then to have to bring that forward. One, I didn't want to hurt your feelings.
Sure.
And I also didn't want to blow the top off of
what we did have. Right. Which we felt was good at the time.
Which we did. We felt was good.
Yeah.
Which we felt was good at the time. But we didn't know it could be so much better.
No, we didn't. We're so much more free of those feelings. Just like, me sending you that screenshot of that text message that we had 3 years ago. And it's like, oh my God, we were so scared of each other.
We were so scared.
Yeah. I would wager that 99% of women in our shoes feel the same way. And it's all because of the things that haven't been said yet.
Mm-hmm.
You're capable of saying them. You're capable of being vulnerable with each other and not facing judgment back. But you have to be open. You have to be open to that.
Yeah. Or at least be open and curious to yourself.
Right.
That is one thing that, we had talked about. We were on these singular self-reflection moments that we weren't aware that each was doing. So you don't have to have the other person right then and there.
No.
You don't have to heal together. But just being curious about yourself, where are these feelings coming from? Why am I, responding, or what is this bringing up inside of me?
Right.
Can help you show up the way that you want to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we both came to this place of surrender at the same time, without even knowing, like you said, that each other was doing that same work. And I saw it happening in you. You had pulled away, and where we had seasons where we were closer. And when I felt you pull away, of course, my initial reaction was came from my place of anxious attachment style. But I wanted to text you and say, "Are you mad at me? What did I do? What?" But I knew, because I was a more healed version of myself, that when I took a step back and said, "Okay, let's talk through this with me. You haven't done anything. You haven't said anything to upset her. So therefore, in your heart that this silence is about, or her short response is about something that she is working through. And you don't need to know. You don't need, is it me? Did I do anything? Is a need to know. I need to know, kind of a self-protection, a self-preservation type thing. And, I talked with myself and just said, if she wants you to know, she'll tell you. So just hold space. I've gotten really good at that phrase, at doing that, right? In my marriage through, my husband's on a healing journey. I'm on a healing journey. My sister has been on a healing journey for the last 8 years. And we have to get really good at holding space for the people that we care about in our lives, because we're not all on the same healing path. We're not there at the same time. We're not hitting the same milestones at the same time. So I knew you were working on something behind the scenes. I just didn't know that it was kind of the same thing that I was working through, and that would lead us to where we are.
Our paths diverged.
Absolutely. And something else that I want to acknowledge too is that while you and I are on our own healing journey and are where we are, you and I have talked about, my husband is on his own healing journey, and while he may not be where you and I are, I think you and I are both in this place of holding space for him and knowing that he's doing his work, and in his time, those things will fall into place for him. And it doesn't mean that, and he doesn't ask that you and I not sit down and heal together, just because he's not where we're at. And I think that's important. I think that other co-mothers need to know that you don't have to have a bad relationship because your spouse or your partner or the ex is not where you are. It doesn't mean that I'm disrespecting my husband. It doesn't mean that I am disrespecting his experience. It means that we're choosing to have mutual respect for where each other is at. And he's having mutual respect for both you and I and where we are at and what we are offering our children.
Yes. And one of our first lunch that we had together, we discussed, commonality. What in this dynamic, our commonality can be the children.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be former ex, current wife. That person doesn't need to be what we have in common.
No, and I think it should be
right. So we don't have to.
That's the past, and that's the shit that adults keep drudging up and keeps getting in the way. And if we allow the children to be our commonality, and that we are two women, be our commonality,
common motherhood, two women, we like some of the same things. Make that your commonality. And see where that goes.
Yeah, not the traumatic past.
Right.
Yeah.
Or an individual person, or you don't have to. You don't have to share stories. You don't have to do. You don't have to remove that feeling of, I have to be loyal to this person. I have to be whatever. Right. Create your own relationship apart from those. What could be triggers or whatnot, and see there's so much more to you than those circumstances.
And by creating our own relationship, we're not being disloyal. It's not being disloyal to, like I said, my husband and his experience and his journey. We hold space for that. He can do his work on his own timeline. We have done our work on our timeline, and I think it speaks to his progress too, that he knows the better that you and I are, the better our children are, right? The better he becomes, the better our children are. And that's the commonality. That's why we're here. That's why we're co-parenting. We're co-mothers. That's what we're doing. So, you mentioned our lunches. We decided that we wanted to see what happened when we saw each other outside of just mom and stepmom, who are we beyond those labels? So, when you stop seeing each other as the other woman or a threat to your role as a mother, you can see each other as people a lot easier. It's easier to learn about each other, see what each of your needs are in order to thrive in your roles as co-mothers, in your roles as women. You'll probably find out, as we have, that we're alike in a lot of ways. I think that we both like reassurance, and having this relationship is reassurance. It reassures that, yeah, you're doing good. Mm-hmm. You're a great mother, and I'm doing good. I'm a great stepmother. And, whether you and I do that through our actions, through our words, through, acts of service, gift giving, whatever that, I think we have in getting to know each other kind of learned each other's love language, if you will. And I know that I strive to pour into you, because if you're happy, if you are feeling good about yourself, if you are at peace, that's only going to make you more confident in your role with the boys. And what a wonderful gift to give to one another.
Right.
Yeah,
that's a two-way.
Yeah.
That's a two-way street. And it is just showing up as when you feel like your true and authentic self, without the worry of judgment, then those are free to give. I don't feel I don't feel like that's hard.
No. For us, it's not.
For us.
Yeah. I think, some people, we're all different. Some people that's harder than others, but it doesn't have to be. And I want to talk about a couple stories where I know you mentioned in our last episode that there were times you felt like you sacrificed so that I got to have the motherly experience that you knew I always longed for. And I'll cry talking about it, but that's so noble to me, because that's just something you didn't have to do. It's something that you chose to do. And I think a lot of women are just too threatened by that to allow it, or have that need to hang on to control so much that they would never allow that experience for another woman. And if we could see each other, like you said, the ability to see each other as humans, see each other as woman to woman, and having respect for what we as women have the ability to experience, want to experience, and maybe didn't get to. What a wonderful... I feel like I'm stumbling over my words a bit, but what a gift you have given me in getting to experience motherhood, that I wouldn't otherwise get. And it took your willingness to sacrifice that for me. And it's very moving for me, that another human would be so welcoming of that, because motherhood is not a small thing.
Right.
It is not that's not something you just give to someone else willy-nilly.
Or very easily.
No.
Like, and I can't, I wouldn't be being honest if if that wasn't, if that didn't feel challenging at times, because I the term mother bear, like it's a term for a reason.
Yeah,
and so it wasn't that, I'm not a saint.
Sure.
I'm not, oh my gosh, you're superhuman. Like, no, I had those feelings.
Yeah.
It
was a choice.
Yeah. I think
a sacrifice.
It felt a little bit more familiar because I did have, I had gone through the experience of having daughters, and then, there being, other women in their realm, and learning that there really wasn't a lot of,
right.
there was a level of control there that I was not going to have.
Right.
And so I had the experience of sharing, right? It wasn't anything like this. Like I've said,
Right.
I've never co-parented before. This is really my first time. But it allowed me the space, the pause to look at you and see what your desires were too. And that goes back to what you just said. If you're happy. Now we had to finesse this, right?
Sure.
Because there was some, maladaptive behavior on my side as well. Placating and people pleasing can back you into a corner.
Absolutely.
So that's, and that's its own thing.
Yeah.
That we had to work on, and, healthy boundaries and things that we're doing now. But it did allow me that pause to be able to see, and, the golden rule, do unto others as you would want to do unto yourself.
Sure.
Like, that played a part. So your feelings did matter, even in the realm that we were, that we were in. And, I wish that wasn't such a novel or noble idea.
Right.
And I think that's what we're trying to do here is that give yourself permission to observe the other person.
Right.
And you had mentioned on a podcast episode before, if your children are with another person 50% of the time, like, you wouldn't give your children to a stranger 50% of the time.
Right.
But that's what we were. We knew each other on a surface level. We knew that our children were safe and that we're good people and we pay our taxes.
Right.
But we were strangers.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that resonated. Like, hey, give yourself permission to not be strangers. Even if it's not, this magical story. At least you can at least understand or know what the other person is, what their challenges are, what their, and then you can decide, is that something that aligns with who I am or is it not? Like, there are many choices in this scenario. So it doesn't have to be, we're best friends or whatnot, but I think it's okay to know who's assisting and collaborating in the raising of the children.
There's not a more important job than raising children. So it's a tricky bag anyway, because in co-parenting situations, you're not typically getting to choose who you do that with. So why not make it the best that you can for your own mental health, for the well-being of your children, and like you said, in knowing your co-parent, you know what helps them to thrive. You know what helps them to, and it's not that hard to care for someone else's feelings and what might also be good for someone else. Because in having this relationship and being aware of what you and I both need from each other, it only makes us better. It only makes us happier. It makes us more confident. It makes us more comfortable. And when you're in that peaceful space in life, everything else tends to fall into place. Everything else, this is not a constant source of stress or discomfort anymore.
Right.
And there are people that live their entire lifetimes in that space. And you only get one. You get one life. So why would you choose to keep it in that dark spot when it doesn't have to be? So one other that I wanted to bring up too, in who we are as people, who we are as mom and stepmom. Mother's Day has always been a day I have loathed. And I don't say that because I have a wonderful mother. I do. And that day has always been about celebrating my mother. As I, got into my 30s and I longed for children, it was a day that I just kind of, it was like, okay, let's get this day over with. I don't live close to my mother. We have 8 hours in between us, so it wasn't something I could go and share with her and distract myself by being there with her. And so that day really became a sore spot for me. And then, for sure, when the boys entered my life, and, that's not a day that I would get to spend with them. My husband gets to spend Father's Day. And he does a great job at, I believe the weekend before or the weekend after is considered Stepmother's Day. And, he's always done a good job at bringing attention to my role around that time. And even on that day when the boys are at your house, he does for me, and appreciates my role. And so I am thankful for that. But this year was different. This year, my husband got a text message, on Mother's Day morning asking what my drink of choice was, at Starbucks. And in the non-smooth way, he's like, "Hey, what do you drink at Starbucks?"
I wondered.
Yeah. And I was like, "Why?" I was like, "You're not going to get me Starbucks, And it's like, "Oh, maybe a caramel latte," or I don't even remember what I said in that day. But you showed up at our home with the boys. They came to the door, and one of them had flowers in hand, and one of them had a cupcake and coffee in the other. And that was a huge turning point for me in where I wanted this relationship to go. Like I said, I'd been on a journey up to that point, but I could see the change in you at that point too. And I could see that, okay, this is, we're moving in a direction it's good. There's something that was so moving to me, that I was acknowledged for my role, as a mother in their life by their mother on her day. And that was, I can't thank you enough. I can't tell you what that did for me on that day. It changed that day for me. Mm-hmm. That day went from a day that I loathed to a day that I felt celebrated. I felt a part of something. I felt acknowledgement for the role that I do play in their life. Because, like I've said, though I did not birth them, 2 days out of every week and every other weekend, I those are my duties too. And so to be acknowledged for that by their mother was so huge for me and so moving for me. So,
well, and I think this Mother's Day, that feeling, was different because we were different, because we have always given each other Mother's Day gifts. Absolutely. So this wasn't a new thing. No. But the feeling behind it was different. Even my feeling, this felt more where and I have to, give shout out to Jody. She's a great gift giver. Very observant. And I will just say, she knows things that I liked just by observing. Like I said, very mystical and whimsical person, and I've gotten some of the best gifts. My favorite being a crystal tree that sits in my living room, but everything from books to a Kelly Green Stanley cup, and and even self-care things, the silk pillowcase and eye mask, and these were all very thoughtful things before we even embarked on where we are now. Right. There was this sense of, of giving,
Sure.
wanting to have that inclusion. But you're right. There was something different this year, even when I'm taking the boys on Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Boys, we are loading up and going to the store, and we are going to, get these things. Me texting, for that order.
Nice.
So,
Yeah.
and I thought to myself, oh, he knows her order.
Oh my gosh, you're
So
kidding
funny.
me.
Okay, so
Absolutely
that's
not.
really funny. And but yeah, it was important. There was a different vibe. There was a different feeling,
The
and
intention was different.
yeah, the intention was different. And so it's really nice to know that was felt.
Oh,
Now that wasn't
so
something that I
much.
was like, oh, I hope she
She's
feels
still
this.
not no.
But no, it felt different for me
Yeah.
too.
On the giving end. And
Yeah, because
yeah.
we were coming off of, like we talked about in episode 1 with, or did we talk about in episode 1, the
Maybe.
car ride about being called mom?
I can't remember.
I don't know. We
think
talk so much
did.
about, we have podcasts in our head. But that particular, that was that decision. I am giving you permission to be mom.
Yeah.
And that's it, period. There's nothing behind it. There's
Right.
nothing, but you've
Right.
got to give me time
There's
to
a
acclimate.
caveat.
No, it was
Right.
just, it is Mother's Day. She is mom. We're going to celebrate her as well, period.
Yeah.
And then
Absolutely.
that's it.
And look at what you taught our kids. Look at what you taught, that's just what they will know. And you're a great gift giver as well. That's something that I hope our boys pick up from,
Oh,
that,
they will if we have anything to do with it.
Absolutely. Well, and I'm thankful their dad is too, that paying attention to the small things, I do that even in our home when you're not present. I make sure that I take the boys to pick out gifts for you, or I involve them and get their input, before I just buy something. I want their little inputs. I want them to feel a part of that. I want them to know how important that is to pay attention to the small details. And, when I speak to them, I just refer to you as mom, not your mom. I think that's important. There's intention behind that. I do that intentionally. I don't want them to see, she is you and I am me. And, I want them to see us as a unit, all of us. And, sometimes I feel like the things, and I'm sure you do too, sometimes the things that I give you might come more indirectly through the children. At least that's my hope. So that they are the ones to also go home and reassure you that she's on our team, but she's Jode and your mom, and that's, I think that's important. You, like you say, you give me permission to be mom too. And, I think knowing that there's no threat there in giving that, there's no threat because your mom. You know your role. I know I'm Jode, and I know my role. Even if I get called mom, I know I'm Jode. And being able to establish your own thing as stepmom in your kid's life is so important. And that will only help their biological mother to not see you as a threat. You're not a threat.
Right.
You don't have to be a threat. Since obviously this podcast is about grace, no pun intended, or pun intended, let's talk about that a little bit. Have there been some moments of grace on either side that have stood out to you?
Oh, absolutely. In the
Countless.
beginning, countless. Yeah, I think that we're both givers, and we are very cognizant of each other's feelings, even when we were, prior to today.
Right. Paralleling.
Yeah, paralleling. I like that. It's a new word. But I was always very thankful and, cognizant of the times where you would be protective of me in conversations, or, if we were, you know, uh, on a topic of something that could go south really,
Sure.
really fast in the group chat or on a text thread. I always had this sense of you being kind of the Switzerland of the group, and so I felt there were times where you were protective of me, and like that didn't go unnoticed.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's probably one of the biggest things where I felt like I had importance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I hope so. Absolutely. And here's a lighter one, giving each other grace. I'm certain that people get hung up on, I've sent clothes to your house and they don't come back, right? Or it's been a few weeks and I haven't seen them. And that might have been something that in the first, 6 months, that moved on pretty quick for me. But I might have gotten frustrated, like, well, I just bought that. Where did I didn't see. But I just entered the picture, so I was just buying things. And Kelly and I laughed this week about, and I mentioned it earlier, about this shirt that I had bought. Again, I think we talked about this and didn't record it the last time, but you tell it funnier than I did. I was buying new clothes, right? I just entered the picture.
Yeah, so the boys come home in these matching darling shirts that had
far more cost than I should have.
Well, yeah. So they were can I say the brand?
Sure.
They're from Bowdoin. Very great T-shirts, by the way. So I'm not knocking on that, but they were matching. They were cute, but as you know, toddler children, they strip their clothes off, they throw them. They're
kicked under a couch,
kitchen, everywhere, and so I, and at this point, I mean, there's just so much going on. I had teenage daughters at home. I think I was dealing with my oldest graduating. So it's just like keeping track of clothes was not high on my priority list. Right. But I did feel a healthy level of anxiety. And so this shirt went missing.
Yeah.
And
I had text you and been like, hey, I haven't seen this shirt.
Oh, yeah.
Let me back tomorrow, please.
Yeah. I think I scurried around looking for this shirt. I could not find it. And so, of course, I text her back. I'm so sorry. I can't find this shirt. I'll replace it. No problem. And she's like, great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, I get online and I had no idea what I was getting into because this shirt was... God only knows. It was pricey.
It's probably $50.
At least.
Yeah.
And so my jaw dropped and I was just like, oh my God, I gotta buy this. But I had to. Yeah. So I did. I did it. And so I text her back and I'm like, the shirt's been ordered and whatever. And then I find it.
Of course you did.
I found it. And I think lucky, do we have two now?
Do we? Or were you able to? I can't remember if you were able to cancel it or not. Because I think we only have one.
You only had one. Yeah. Okay, so either I got to cancel it or
it's somewhere.
But yeah.
Those are little things that, man, you've got to learn to give your co-partner grace, because it's so tough to keep up. And it was easier for me because I just had the two, right? They'd come home, they'd strip it down, I'd put it in a bag, and then...
What's she doing with her clothes over there?
Yeah, exactly. My gosh. But I didn't have teenage girls that I was also trying to, wrangle and worry about proms and graduation parties. And so you got to give grace. You've got to know that, listen, there's more going on than what's going on in your world.
Yes.
So,
And don't send your Bowden shirts over
Oh,
if you're afraid not to get them back.
That's right. And you know what? I don't buy that anymore. I've learned, I was a first-time mother. I'm a first-time mother.
That's
so
right.
I had waited so long to buy the cute shit, and
yes,
I learned really quick that they
and
ruin
nothing's
it.
wrong with that.
They ruin it. They lose it. They wear it one time and stain the front of it, and you get your heart broken. So it's like, why?
They sneak scissors off and
came home from school with a hole cut in the front of the shirt because he got a little wild during crafts.
Yeah.
You learn. You live, you learn.
You live, you learn, and then you get loves.
That's
Isn't
right.
That's
right.
That's the commercial.
Exactly. But we've had several moments of grace, but I think that you and I have done a really good job at giving that, at trying to, at least the initial reaction may be one of frustration. But again, we've learned that that's about us. That's not about the person that we're frustrated at. With grace, I believe also comes trust, and learning to give each other the benefit of the doubt. Now, if you have a vicious co-parent, and I'm not talking about that. I am sorry to the people that are dealing with that, because it doesn't have to be that way. But I'm talking about the moments when kids make statements that are taken out of context or simply not true, right? They're kids. They tell little tales to see what kind of reaction they get. And I know you and I both have faced that. We've talked about, the boys came home one time and said, well, Mom said you're not friends. This was early on. And I remember at first thinking, oh my God, is that what she's telling them? Is she over there saying that, F this girl, we're not friends? Like, and, it takes being able to step back and say, okay, they're 4, they can't comprehend conversations. They might have heard a sister say something about a friend and decided, well, this is about this, kids can twist things or hear what they want, and you can't automatically assume that your child is right, that they're hearing. I think a lot of people say, well, that's what's being said in front of them, and that's why they're repeating it. And I think that there's a healthy dose of that somewhere, but that's not always the case. And you have to be willing to give someone the benefit of the doubt, give them grace, because you hope that's what someone does for you. And that's been the case. How many times have, I remember the day that you sent us a message and said, hey, one of the boys said today that, Dad said that they came from Jode's belly, and my God, what a hurtful thing to hear from your kid. And of course you're immediately like, who the has said this?
Yeah.
That's your human reaction is to,
oh yeah. And I've created 5 narratives in my
for sure
head of how that went down.
Talk about how we both do that. We'll create narratives, 5 different conversations that haven't taken place before we get together. Not anymore, hopefully.
Yeah, not anymore.
How much we're getting so much more sleep than we used to.
We really are, yeah.
But had we not shared these comments with each other, had we not talked about them and just took the kids at their word, that's where anger and resentment, are continue to be fed. I know we love our kids. Sometimes we just have to consider that the things they say aren't exactly true. It's not out of spitefulness, more so out of misunderstanding, especially with young children. If there's older children doing it, it may be just out of curiosity, out of, if I say this, what response am I going to get back from? Am I going to get more information, about how this person feels? If I do, I'm learning. I'm trying to educate myself in a maybe a manipulative way, but a way that I, as a human, only know how.
And I remember in one of our first sessions with Dr. Shandy, and he made sure to impress upon us that, your child's perception is also through, its own lens, and that you don't, it's not, wise to then question beyond that. Just,
right.
It's hear what they have to.
Underdeveloped lens.
Yeah, it's an underdeveloped lens. So, take the information and then, go to the source and,
right.
work it out there. But that,
right.
don't question beyond, kind of like what you hear.
Yeah.
And then because our human nature is then we create narratives and
absolutely get defensive, get protective.
Yeah.
So, kind of how we've shifted is looking at what would it do if we didn't focus on what hurts, what our co-parent could do to hurt us, and focus on what our co-parent can bring to our lives. With that, I feel that only makes the team stronger. You and I have chosen to focus on what can we bring to each other's lives, not what might you do that hurts me, or what might have you done that's hurt me, or vice versa. Like you said before, I don't have to stand at the crash site and gawk, right? I can choose to. The crash happened, but I can walk away from it. You don't have to sit there and hold that mental image. And when we don't, the team is stronger. You let go of controlling all the things and wrap your head around, I'm a member of this team, not the captain. It doesn't have to be a captain.
It brings freedom.
Oh my gosh.
It brings the freedom to collaborate at that point. It brings a sense of support. We can support each other, again, without judgment. And then it also opens up community.
Yes. Just something parents need.
Yes. And an example of this is, the school year has started, and we have discovered that there are some kids on the block that are in, the kids' classes. And so as I'm getting to know their parents and as we're having play dates, I'm like, now you have to get to know, Jody as well. Like, this is not, this is, this is a community.
Yes.
Like, if they're going to be friends, then, they could be friends at Dad and Jode's house as well. And so it's not like, again, that, if we're thinking about teams of being on the playground and being like, you're on my team, like, this mom gets to be my friend, but you don't get to know them.
Mine.
We come as a a pair now. A package now. And
because it's our boys' package. It's our kids don't have to live in two totally different worlds. It's their world. It's their one world. And
right.
They shouldn't have to say, well, I've got this friend when I'm at my mom's house, and I got this friend when I'm at Dad and Jode's house. Like that, making them draw that line is,
right.
That's about the parents. That's about you as a parent not wanting to be uncomfortable, right? Or face a conversation that might make you uncomfortable. And that's wonderful that you've done that, and you've talked to this kid's mother and said, hey, you're going to meet her, and this is just part of this deal. And their play dates don't just have to be 50% of the time,
50%
or
of the
on
time,
the one side of the ball field, I think that, in going back to talking about, being the captain of the team and not being able to see everybody as equals on the team. I fight this in my work. I own a business, and I have found that delegating tasks to my employees has not always been my strong suit. And a lot of things that I am part of or a team member on, I can find myself easily saying, well, I'll just do it myself, because then I know it'll get done, and I know it'll get done right. And who's to say that my way is the right way? I think that you have to be really self-aware to understand this concept, and allowing someone to bring what they're good at to the forefront and focus on what you're good at bringing, and know that you don't have to bring it all, right? How about if we share the load? It's so much easier. There's no need for competition. A football team needs an offense and a defense. we don't need two quarterbacks. But every role is vital to the experience and to the win. And so with that, I mean, I guess that leads into how do co-mothers make room for each person to contribute their strengths instead of locking horns and taking them as a threat?
Yeah, I think that dropping the need to compete, and that is a struggle.
Sure.
That it's a decision, but it's also, it can be a struggle because of those innate mother bear instincts inside of us. And we've talked about, the element of competition, like what does that mean? Like, and even as trivial as, purchase Nike's shoes. Yeah. Do I now have to purchase Nike shoes? And so I think it's, dropping the need to compete, and what I allow you to be you. You are good at signing up the kids for soccer.
Right.
They'd never play soccer if I was in charge of sign up, Yeah. And that just might be because of where I'm at in life. The girls did, and that's not fair. I understand. The girls did all of these things, and now I'm tired. Right. But no, like being okay with that. But there was that initial, like, where you would say to me, hey, I'm going to be available for this eye doctor's appointment. Do you, and it's on our day. Do you want me to take them? My initial response is,
hell no.
No, I'll take them, But it was also like that feeling of jockeying for position of, why wouldn't I take them? I'm the mom. No, I'll take them. But then I was just like, yeah, take them.
Right. It's not going to change the outcome of the appointment.
No.
Right.
And it really was okay. So that was, again, something that I had to practice of being like, it's okay for you to be good at those things, and it is okay for me not to be.
Right.
It
doesn't make you lesser of a mother.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't make me, it doesn't affect my worthiness. It doesn't affect any of those things. It's just that you are really good at keeping a calendar.
Yeah. And
I can let you do that.
Right.
And nothing happens.
Right.
They just get to where they're going on time.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
You don't have to drop what you're doing in that moment.
Right.
Now, I mean, as mothers, we would drop whatever, whenever, obviously, but we've got a bigger team, right? You're not having to do it all by yourself.
Yeah.
And so if you've got an extra teammate, why not utilize that teammate and their strengths?
Right.
Because that's only going to make the unit function smoother. It's going to make life easier for you, for everyone else.
Right. And you might have to harness those feelings.
Yeah.
You might have to harness those mother bear feelings.
You will.
But I encourage you to do that. Just sit with it. Let it do its thing.
Challenge yourself.
And then see what happens.
Right.
Practice that enough, and that feeling of anxiety or that need to, kind of exert who your position,
control,
it does simmer down.
Yeah, absolutely. And look at where it leads. I think for us, some of these team moments have led to, for sure, less worry of judgment, less worry of inadequacy. Some of those moments now come up frequently. This winter, you were getting ready to take family pictures on your side, and I remember you texting me and said, hey, you still have those red sweaters that the boys wore last year that you got them for the concert, and what about those white tennis shoes? That's something that before you might have felt like, well, I can't ask for that. Why would I've got to do this myself. But why would you go out and buy new shoes and new sweaters when those worked perfectly? I think we had a moment this week, that was a definite example of teamwork. I am running behind to pick up the boys at the bus stop, And I pull up at the stoplight and I can see the end of your street. I can see where the bus would pull up. And I thought, I'm fine. The bus has been running 5 to 10 minutes late. I'm going to be okay. I'm waiting at this red light and up pulls the bus and I hit the panic button and I pick up the phone and I call Kelly and I'm like, are you at home? She's like, yes, what's going on? I'm like, the bus is at the end of the street right now. I'm stuck at the red light and they're not going to let the boys off the bus. And she's like, oh my God, I'm running into the street right now. And before, I would have been so nervous to call you and for you to think, no, she can't do this. You know, she is inadequate. She is not good at this job. She is going to put my children in harm's way. And because we've been able to let go of those fear of judgments, we operated as a team. You ran down the street. I hope you had time to put a bra on before you had to do that. Ran down the street. Kids get off the bus. I pull up. All is well.
All is well. Nobody even knew. Now, it was funny because you're right. I am running down the street waving my arms. Luckily, I don't live down on the cul-de-sac. So
right.
the bus driver could see me fairly quickly. But, I'm out there flailing my arms. I'm here. And the cutest part was then the boys getting off the bus. And it was that, running towards each other moment. And, then their arms are flailing, Mom. And they were tickled because, usually somebody's right there at the end of the street. So they got to run in the street. And that was the big highlight moment for them. But then here comes Jody's car up, shortly after.
Wheels.
And it was just funny. It was, that was a funny moment.
Yeah.
And that's all it had to be. There wasn't a, I'm going to put that in my back pocket for ammunition later, that this proves my version of you is right. Yeah, this is one for the courts.
And that would, honestly, that would have been a fear of mine 2 years ago.
Right.
It would have been. I would have thought, oh my God, I've messed up. This is one. She has one up on me now, and I'm so thankful that is not the case anymore.
Same.
I mean, I hate this for anyone who doesn't feel like they can get to that place or is not in this place, because it is so possible. And we've said it before, there's so much freedom in where we are.
Right.
So much freedom. So is there, here's a funny one or an awkward one, however you want to take it. Is there anything you haven't said to me that you wish you could share now?
Oh yeah, that was a one that I had to really spend a lot of time on, and I don't feel like I have a good answer. But what I wish, I think what I would rewrite, or that's a different question.
That's okay.
Well, let's go
I know
back
one
to...
thing you've said that you just recently said to me. And let's talk about social media.
Oh, yeah.
How my presence on social media, or me looking at your stuff, or you seeing my stuff pop up, unsolicited, how that, drove anxieties and feelings for you.
Yeah, that did.
I remember when you told me, you covered your mouth oh my God, I almost had to get on social media because of you.
Oh, I did. Yeah, we can talk about that.
And laugh.
And laugh. Yeah, because just even this morning we talked about just recapping first episode and how it's hard to kind of reenact those initial feelings because they don't resonate anymore. And but it is important for our backstory to know kind of where we came from. But Jody is a very social person. She is very present on social media.
Yes.
And we had to have I had to come clean that I struggled in the beginning with even seeing her posting selfies of her and the boys, or, things like that. So I unfollowed, not unfriended, but I just didn't want to see it all in my news feed. But I'm only one person, so I can unfollow her and not necessarily see all of her content. But if she doesn't unfollow me, then whatever I post is free for her to view. And so I noticed quickly that she was watching my content, no matter what it was, liking my pictures or whatever. And so I got that sense of, oh, I better be careful. Not that I've even that I would post anything.
No.
I'm not a person who airs out conflict on social media, but there was a definite feeling of restriction. Like I wouldn't be able to post something. I think very early on I did post a quote. It had nothing to do with anybody in that camp.
Yeah.
But you did ask me about it, and I can't remember what it is. I'd have to go back in the archives. But you asked me about my feelings, and we cleared it up. It was just like, oh no, this was about someone else, or blah blah blah.
Exactly.
And but I was very careful about what then I posted. And after our we discussed this on the last podcast about the TikTok that I had posted. Man, I that insecurity was, speaking loud, and I'm like, I just want to get off. I want to get off of all of these things. But that thing is like, no, like this is a public forum.
I like it. Yeah.
I like doing these things, and I didn't necessarily want to get off at that point, but
absolutely. And isn't it funny how we take things? Because if I liked something of yours, it wasn't because I sought it out. It typically would pop up for sure. Not on TikTok. I probably sought those out, if I'm being honest. But on Facebook, Instagram, whatever it was. I think it was mostly Facebook. I don't even know that I followed you on Instagram at the time, but it would pop up in my feed, and I just thought, I like this. I like that. I would genuinely like them. Pictures or quotes. Now, if I asked you about a quote, that was that unhealed version of myself that I mentioned earlier. Course. That was like, did I do something to upset her? Did I do something to drive this? Is she making this post because I've said something? Or, and now, like I said, I know that's 99% of the time it's not about you.
Right.
It's coming from, from such an unhealed place. And at the time, we did not know each other.
Right.
You were a stranger to me. I was a stranger to you. But here we were in such an intimate role together, raising children that, I was trying to figure out who you were and understand the meaning behind the things you said, the things you posted, and did I
assigning
affect
meaning?
That? Yeah, exactly.
The ultimate voyeurism, right?
Yeah.
And
God, social media has done nothing but feed that. So, and I am super active on social media. I live 8 hours from home, and that's something. My husband does not do social media. He does not like it, and. I tell him, I was like, I do it because that's how I keep track of my family. That's how my family gets to see what we're doing. That's how my friends back home get to see. And so it's a double-edged sword because it can be like we said, it can drive those feelings of insecurity. It can drive those, that need to match up, to measure up. But at the same time, I feel like that's my doorway to. Oh
yeah, there's nothing wrong.
People.
Yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. And what the key to that was me.
Oh, sure.
I was assigning feeling, or insecurity that was bubbling up within myself.
Yeah.
And again, once I got curious about that, once I acknowledged those things, like I don't see that.
Right.
I don't see that now.
Right.
So
absolutely.
Again, it's the lens in which you look. But
here's a tough one for me, but I think I've told you this too. I think I have. Anything that I wished I could share with you now. There was a time when, just hearing your name tightened something in my chest, obviously. I didn't know you. All I had was, one experience. And I have admitted I've had to change your name probably 4 or 5 times over the years in my phone. Because I would get anxiety. You and I both discussed that. We'd get anxiety from seeing each other's name pop up, or, it would give you anxiety when you saw my husband's name pop up. It would give me anxiety how just seeing your name pop up next to my husband's, on the phone. And now I look back and I think, what a waste of time that was to go in and change her name. I don't even know what all I would give you initials. I would say boy's mom. I would say, but then that would hurt me. There was so many, I was like, oh my God, how do I get over this? And again, that was just healing in myself. That was me letting go of things that weren't true, that weren't narratives that I was creating in my own head, that were driving unnecessary anxiety and stress. And, but getting to know you, getting to know your intentions, getting to know where our boundaries are and what role we have in each other's lives has absolutely helped me to let go of those angers, those insecurities that drove those feelings. I'm happy to say you have your name back.
Yay.
It was never anything ugly.
You have been followed.
Good. We're moving up. We're moving on up. All right. Well, that shift didn't happen overnight for either one of us, but it happened. And I think that says a lot about both of us. I'm not saying that everything from the past makes sense, but I can say that I don't carry it the way that I used to, and neither do you. And that is growth. So tell me, hardest truth that you had to face about yourself in order for us to get here?
I had to understand that I am the key to both my happiness and my suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And who I brought to the table mattered.
Right.
And so if I continued to bring this guarded, people-pleasing version of myself, then I was going to get back, kind of a reflection of that. Mm-hmm. Circumstance was going to continue to prove why I believed those things about myself. So if I was looking through the lens of being misunderstood, then I was going to interpret everything that you did as misunderstanding.
Right.
That was my loop. And so, I decided to, put my key in my lock. Yeah. And then that unlocked version, that vulnerable version, the one who's going to confess,
right,
is who showed up at the table.
Right.
And we're talking kind of about a reflection. Who you are is now reflecting back to me, and it is joyous. It is right. Free. It is, so, and it's so possible.
Yes, it is.
What about you?
If you're willing, yeah, for me. The hardest truth that I had to face was that I wasn't really angry with you for not getting to have a baby of my own. What I felt was just jealousy. It was unresolved hurt and traumas and feelings that I had towards myself, angers I had towards myself. And this ties into the, if I had one moment I could rewrite between you and I. you and I had a conversation just last week. It was vulnerable conversation. You cried. And I was able to say to you that I don't blame you for not being able to have a baby. That's something that you have been made to feel like that's yours to carry, and it's not. In the early days, I had to shoulder the hurt and trauma that my husband experienced and carried for the unexpected pregnancy that you all experienced, and the ways that it changed the course of both of your lives. This left him feeling like he didn't want more children, and I pointed that anger at you directly. And the grief that I carried for that situation, I pointed that back at you as well. But through so much inner work, so much self-reflection, this deep journey that I have been on, I'm able to see things so much more clearly. And honestly, this is so weird. And our bodies, women's bodies, they're working against us, I swear. But after my hysterectomy, I was able to see things so much more clear. Maybe I didn't have the hormones raging through my body that were clouding my vision, for a lack of better. I was able to see that not having children was also due to the decisions that I had made in my life that affected my health, that got me to the age of 40 and having never been married, never having children at that point. But that my path wasn't wrong. That we always have an idea of what we want our lives to look like. I have said it before. I am a believer in God, and I know that this is the path that God had laid out for me. Having a biological child wasn't part of the story that God wrote for me. I was angry, for not understanding that at the time. And you were the easiest target for me to point that anger at, because it's hard for us to look at the anger we have for ourselves. Look at the anger we have for, and I do this with multiple things. I set an expectation for what I want to happen, how I want it to happen. And if those expectations aren't met, and I'm talking about even if it's, okay, my husband's going to be home at 5:30, we're going to have dinner at 6. If he comes home at 5:35, that throws off my evening, Mm-hmm. And it's like, I've had to learn that, man, you got to roll with the punches. You cannot set the expectations so high that when it falls even minutely short of that your world is rocked. And this is obviously a little bit bigger than that, but I have told you that was not yours to carry. It was not you. It was not your fault. It was not my husband's fault. It was not the shame and guilt that I've laid on myself. It was not my fault. It just simply wasn't part of the plan or my purpose. And that is something that I can see clearly now. Hindsight is always 20/20, right?
It is.
Yeah. And I definitely, that's, I say it's something I would rewrite. If I did rewrite it, would we be where we're at today? I don't know, I think you and I are both big believers in that the things that happen in our lives do so with reason. They lead us to where we're at.
Right on time.
Right on time. Even the hurts that we face.
That was, you kind of say right on time. And when I thought about that question, I think that way too. But I was like, gosh, what would I rewrite? If I could, this would be like in general, just rewriting the belief that it had to be that way, right. That we had to be at arm's length. And that this reminds me of something that has stuck with me. A moment in my teenage years, I was on a missions trip, senior year missions trip to Hungary, the country, and we were in a authentic gypsy village.
Oh, wow.
And this was a very tight-knit community of people. It was an impoverished community. We were there doing, work with, providing clothing, repairs, food, things like that. And I was 18 years old, and I remember seeing one of the women there. She was walking around among everybody was happy, but she was walking around. She was breastfeeding her child, and I was watching this, and then she got called away to do something. I don't know what, but she got called away to do something. So she takes the child and she hands it off to another female, and the female starts to walk, and then she starts breastfeeding that same child. And I didn't understand that at the moment, but that level of community, that there was no ex that anybody was worrying about. I don't even know if that child was theirs. I mean, at this point, it could have been someone else's. But that level of community, and that there wasn't, even then, looking back at it, there wasn't this ownership.
Oh, that's
there
the word
was,
I just thought of.
right? Like that this child needed fed and nourished, and that was a community effort. And people in America might be like, ew, that's so gross, but the point of that story is here, like, what could we rewrite? We are rewriting how two women can come together and parent children in this community like environment.
Right.
And that child was happy.
Oh,
those people were happy. Nobody blinked an eye.
No.
There weren't any pretenses. There was nothing.
The child's needs took precedent over
It
any
did.
adult
Or
feelings.
even,
There were no adult feelings or emotions.
Yeah,
tied
imagine
to
that there weren't adult feelings. Like, we think like, oh, how could you do, they
It's
probably
my kid.
felt something. Maybe they didn't.
Yeah.
Like, no, it was pure community.
Yeah.
And
which is where we all started. We started in tribes. We started in family groups. We started in villages. And society has moved us into these. And don't get me started. I'll get down a rabbit hole of this is where they want us, right? If they divide us, they can conquer us. But they have broken us into. And you live in a multi-generational home, which is, I love that. I love that you have a family compound. Do you know what I mean? Everybody is there. Your village is there. And that's the way that we used to live. Families stayed together in big groups because there's a reason that we use the term, it takes a village. It does. And should be no competition in that village. When people, I love the show Outlander. I think we've talked about that before. And, when they move to America and they start building their homesteads and they're creating their own little communities with people that they have joined up with. And you have somebody that's the nurse. You have somebody that grows the crops. You have somebody that builds the homes. I also listen to, if you don't listen to Theo Vaughn, you have to tune into Theo Vaughn. So funny, so curious. He interviewed this week an Amish boy who is going through, I'll murder it if I try to say it. It's the period where he decides if he wants to... Rumspringa, that's it. He's going through Rumspringa right now, and he... is going through whether he decides if he wants to stay with the village or if he wants to, leave and do his own thing. And just hearing him talk about the sense of community, the sense of tribe, the sense of being a unit, that is what we have gotten away from. We have allowed society, movies, Hollywood, television, wherever it's come from, to tell us that that's a weakness, or that is, you're giving up your ownership to your children, or you're letting go of control when it's yours to have. It's your family. It's like, man, how much better off would we all be if we operated with a better sense of community, a better sense of tribe. Sorry, I got kind of down a rabbit hole there, but I love that story about, the village women sharing that responsibility, because the need of the child is what was put first.
Right.
How amazing is that? Oh, I love it. Tell me, what do you wish biological moms knew about stepmoms from your experience?
That you are just a normal person.
Yeah.
That there is more to you than just these roles of stepmom, or, what am I trying to say?
Just we're women, we're individuals, we have our own.
Yeah, and just to be curious, and just, it's okay to ask questions.
Yeah.
It's okay to want to get to know you.
To understand.
You're not going to lose anything about your motherhood or your experience. Allow yourself to get curious about who else is in your kid's life, and give yourself permission to like them, or at least understand them, or have a sense of who they are.
Yeah, absolutely. From a stepmom's perspective, what do I wish that biological moms knew? Speaking for myself, and probably a lot of other women, that I'm not trying to replace you. I am rooting for your kids, my kids, not competing for them. I'm rooting for them. I'm rooting for you. And that my love is as genuine a love I've ever known from a mother to a child. Stepmoms I would walk through fire for them to fight the devil himself. What you say out loud about your co-parent in front of your kids is what they will believe and what they will mimic. They hear and they see everything. If you're mad at your co-mother, and this goes for biological and step, if you're mad at them, if you dislike them, don't talk about that in front of the kids, or especially with them. You don't have control who that step parent is. So don't make it a miserable situation for the children by teaching them to believe that they're betraying you for loving or caring about their step parent. And I guess I would lastly add that we're equally as emotionally exhausted as you are. So please just give us a little grace, and we will do the same in return. Now we'll turn the tables. What do you wish that stepmoms knew about biological moms?
I wish that they gave us grace in that intrinsic mama bear reflexes, that we are also operating within some really messed up societal norms of, what our roles should be. And we have taken those on, and the feelings of competition and jealousy and fear can be loud. And probably unpleasant
for sure
at times. And so I can't speak for all biological moms. There are great biological moms. There are not great biological moms. So it's really hard. Our situation is very unique to us.
Yes.
And so this isn't necessarily, a roadmap
Sure.
or of.
It's not applicable to everyone.
Yes, but maybe hopeful.
Yeah.
That, you don't have to stay stuck on that loop, even if it's just for yourself.
Yeah.
Even it, you can't control another person, and maybe they never come around.
Right.
But
step out of that loop.
Step out of the loop. Dismiss yourself from the loop.
Talk to me about the visual you gave me earlier about standing in the eye of the storm.
Oh yeah,
this fits in well here.
Yeah, I'm a very visual person, and so when I was practicing, or when I do practice, what I give my attention to, I picture a hurricane, and there's the eye of the storm, which is very calm, very peaceful, and then you have the storm itself, which is swirling and cycloning, and inside of that is debris, and the debris is representative of events or triggers that you can give your attention to. And so picture yourself kind of zooming out and being in the eye of the storm. Picture what that looks like. Picture the waves crashing and spinning, and all of the debris that is in a hurricane, and feel yourself inside of the eye, the peacefulness, the calmness, the lack of crashing, the lack of sound, being present in that moment. And then you get to decide what debris you give attention to. So if there is a triggering text message, and you give focus to it, then you enter the storm, you enter the cyclone, but you have the ability to pull back and say, and I'm not going to respond to that right now. I'm going to let that debris pass. It'll come back around.
Sure.
Right? But I'm going to let it pass right now. And I'm just going to have a moment in the calm.
Yeah. And
so, that was I
love that. I love a good visual. And that's, we all have our own hurricane. And I will give my own visual to that here in a minute. I want to say what I wish that stepmoms knew about biological moms from my experience. I've had two great teachers in you and in my sister, who is biological mom, who is raising children across two homes. To your point, biological moms are mama bears. That's what they are. That's by nature their role, and that they just love their children. Everything they say and do is motivated by that love and their fear that they're not enough or somehow replaceable. So a biological mom needs that respect that they deserve for the title that they carry. They need to know that they're not your enemy. They're the mother of your child. They're not vying for your partner. They're an ex for a reason. At least most of them aren't. And that they have deep feelings too. It's not just about what you feel. You need to be able to step outside of yourself. You've said it before, zoom out. Look at that big picture and see what might be driving their responses. It's coming from within them. Just like our own responses come from within us. They're not sitting in their own home plotting against you. They want to know that you are there loving their children, providing them with support, a comfortable, safe place to sleep, a warm meal to eat, and a love they know they can come home to at stepmoms or stepdads, wherever that's at. They need that reassurance from their step parent. I think I said it in our first episode, that my mother-in-law has always said that when there was a stepmother that stepped into the picture, and was taking care of her boys, that was the one thing she told her: just make sure they know you love them. Please tell them you love them at night when you tuck them in, as I would.
Right.
Give them what I would. That all moms, biological and stepmoms alike, are just trying to move forward. And the more work that we do together as a team, the quicker we can come to this point in the road, this fork in the road where we get to walk the same path. We don't have to walk two separate paths. You can walk the same one. And there's freedom in that. There's so much freedom in that for you, for your co-parent, for your partner, for your ex, for your kids, most importantly. We talked earlier before we hit record. We say a lot of good things before we hit record.
We do.
And you talked about something I had mentioned in either a prior episode or a prior conversation we had about a spiral staircase. You're healing. It was one of my Give Yourself Grace episodes to talk about how healing isn't linear. It's a spiral staircase. You're constantly working your way up this spiral, and it kind of goes hand in hand with your hurricane metaphor. You come back around to some of the same points, but you're working your way up that spiral staircase, and you're collecting tools along the way, collecting tools for yourself, collecting tools of understanding for your co-parent, for your partner. So use those. You really lean into that your healing isn't expected to be linear. It's not going to be, and neither is your co-parents.
Right.
Neither is your co-parents. Give them grace enough to know that they're human too. And they're walking their same spiral staircase at a different pace. We're all walking it at a different pace. So, but as long as you keep moving, sometimes you might stall out, and have to stop and take a breath at one of your steps. But
That's right.
You just got to keep moving up. That's the most important thing. What has surprised you the most about where we are now?
A couple things have surprised me. One, it feels like I've known you forever.
Mm-hmm.
And two was that once I made that decision, it was just done.
Yes.
I didn't have to take all this time to, or expect that, we'll see how this goes. Yeah. We will, I'm still kind of harboring these things or whatnot. It was, I made the decision to get to know you. And so I let it be. Mm-hmm. I let it be that. And I don't know why that was surprising that we would get along so well. But I'm definitely grateful for it. Yeah. I mean, I think we
were hopeful for so long that it would.
Right. And there were glimmers, right? There were these little glimmers in there of which kind of fed that ember of wanting something more between us. And surprised and just very thankful that this isn't, we're not necessarily in this long... I don't want to say that because it could take time with other people. And again, we are not a magical unicorn or whatnot. And this isn't necessarily the path that other people would have to take. But so I'm going to stay with surprised that it feels like I've known you forever.
Yeah, absolutely. I will piggyback off of that. In doing so, in feeling like, because I feel the same, Kelly and I share a new obsession.
Oh, yeah.
We play American mahjong as often as possible. Mm-hmm. Did it shock you that I invited you to be a part of my mahjong girls' night?
Yes. But I was more overcome with excitement because I didn't know anything about mahjong, and but I knew I wanted to. I knew I wanted to be a part of whatever it is you were doing. So it could have been anything, I think. But
We're playing Tiddlywinks. Do you want to
yeah,
come?
still would have come, and I still would have probably been obsessed with that too.
Because it was a bridge.
It was a bridge, and it was time,
Yeah.
and it was part of our unfolding, and it was the invitation to, again, mahjong has nothing to do with parenting or co-parenting. It was, we got to be ourselves amongst, you trusted me amongst your friends.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was what really spoke to me.
Yeah.
And I wanted just to be a part of that. What came out of that was an obsession for the actual game of mahjong, which we are currently sitting in front of
our tiles are between us now.
Yeah, tiles, mat, and
we talk often about what can we start selling off to pay for this new habit that we have.
Right. So as you go out to look up mahjong, just know that
get your pocketbook ready.
Get your pocketbook ready.
But you can start small. We bought our first set at Hobby Lobby, $20. Get out there, get started. Yeah. If you've never played American Mahjong, do it.
It's so fun.
What are you waiting for? It's something that my husband bought me for Christmas, my first set of tiles. I had watched the movie Crazy Rich Asians. Love this movie. The colors, the music, everything about it. And at the end of it, they're having this deep conversation, and they're having it over a game of mahjong, and which is so what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, it was a foreshadowing of what you and I are doing today.
Oh, yeah. We have some of our best conversations over
a game of mahjong. And so I loved it, and that's how I wanted to dive in. And so he bought me that set, and we started playing with another couple, a couple of old people. We have our weekly game night, and I just decided, I have to share this with my friends. I have to share this. And when I created the group, I remember inviting people to it, and your name was there, and I thought, hell yeah, I'm going to invite her to this. Like, this is the next step. This is, we'd been having our lunches and getting to know each other there, and I remember reaching out to you and being like, hey, why don't you invite your friend? Bring her along. So go learn. You won't regret it. You never know. You might be sitting down with your co-mother one day, having deep conversation over a game of mahjong, as we are getting ready to do after we wrap up.
That's right.
We have to start with one and we end with one. It's a good debrief. It's a good breather, breath of fresh air before and after. So, well, what advice would you give to someone who was where we were almost 5 years ago?
I have to plug the book Inner Work again.
Do it.
I mentioned it in episode 1, and it was the cornerstone to finding myself.
Yeah.
And so that is my first piece of advice. Inner Work. You can look it up on Amazon. And again, I have said this multiple times this episode, is just getting curious about yourself. Looking at how certain circumstances or triggers, what is it bringing up inside of you?
Yeah.
And start there. Just start there. And if you need to take a break from any high conflict or whatever, it's okay. Back up.
Right.
It's okay to take a break. It's okay to, spend time with just yourself.
100%. If you don't spend that time with yourself first.
Yeah. Be who you want to be. Be the mom that you want to be. Show up as her, and get curious about the other person.
Yeah.
And start those conversations.
Right. Start somewhere.
Start somewhere.
Take a step. I would say never lose hope.
Never lose hope.
Never lose hope. And know that most of the short responses, the silent treatments or blow up of emotions are not directly about you. They are about the work that your co-parent needs to do. They're about the work that you need to do. So like you said, you have to start with the inner work. You have to look in the mirror first. Have that conversation with yourself. Go pick up a journal.
Yeah.
A prompt journal. You and I have both have used those.
Oh yeah. I'm like 4 journals in now since,
Ask yourself questions, even that you might think have nothing to do with your role as a mother or your, just random questions, because it may lead to thoughts about yourself you didn't even know.
Right.
And discover who you are, and don't be afraid of that. You and I have talked about being afraid of success. What does it look like if I succeed? I have been on a weight loss journey most of my adult life, and I lost a significant amount of weight in 2019. But leading up to that, I had this huge fear of, what if I succeed? What if I lose all of that weight? Who the hell am I? What do I have to offer if I'm not the funny fat girl? What do I look like? How do I show up? And I think that we get in our own way because we stay in chaos, we stay in fear, we stay in an uncomfortable situation because it's familiar. We stay in those places because it's what we know. Right. And you have to be willing to get uncomfortable to get to the other side. And it's beautiful on the other side. Because guess what? I've lost the weight. Me and Kelly are here today. You have to be willing to get uncomfortable to see that success. With big risk comes big reward. So I would also say that, we're all fighting our own demons, working through your own unresolved trauma. Like I said, the inner work, everything we do and say is filtered through the lens we carry based on our experiences that have shaped us. So be willing to set that lens down and pick up another one. Mm-hmm. You're not married to that lens. It's not soldered to your hand. There are many lenses.
Yeah, recreate yourself.
Absolutely.
And then invite your co-parent to get to know that version.
Yeah.
Of you.
Absolutely. I have one more story, just a heartfelt story to share. A great gift that you once gave me that was very moving. And I can't remember if it was a Christmas or birthday gift. I think it was Christmas, maybe. Again, Kelly has learned how much I love the boys. She has learned and understands my desire to be seen and felt and understood as a mother, and what I always thought that would look like. And one thing that I was not present for was the birth of our children. I never got to hold them as babies. I've seen pictures. Sometimes if I dove into your social media, it was to look for things like that. Mm-hmm. It was to look for them as babies that, did they have hair? Did they not have hair? Did they, when did they start crawling? Who walked for the first time? And there are some of those things that my husband has shared along the way. He'll have Snapchat memories that pop up, and he'll text those to me. Moments that I just wasn't there for. I didn't get to experience. And I remember coming to your house it was, I believe, to give you the gift that, we had got you. We were going to exchange gifts. And you said, no, I want you to sit down and open this one, because this one is as much from me as it is the boys. And I opened it, and it was the phase of the moon the night the boys were born. And I remember you said to me that you may not have been there physically, but you were there in spirit. And I know that because you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And that, again, I'll cry.
I'm crying.
Yeah, because
I'm crying.
Was so moving. And understanding your co-mother is what gets you to those points. And that was even before where we are now. I mean, that was almost 2 years ago. And so you were doing the work then. You were wanting to know me then. You were picking up on the things I said and the conversations that we had. You took them to heart then. And I did too. I may not have shown it in some of the same ways or as quickly. But those moments are life-changing. They're life-changing. And you can be that for your co-mother. As we talked about earlier, you can focus on what they can bring to your life and not how they can hurt you. You have the power to change the direction of that relationship. You each do.
Yes. That leads me into another one of my favorite books is The Pivot Year. And it's 365 days to become the person you truly want to be. Mm-hmm. And I didn't read this book front to back. I actually took the year and would open to a random page, and I would date the page and of the time that I read it. And this is from, surprisingly, September of 2024. And it says, this is day 184. It is okay to unearth the seed you have planted when you realize your garden is not harvesting what you need to grow. It's okay to begin again. It's okay to think differently, to want differently, to move differently through this world. Your journey is defined by how you tell the story and by how willing you are to tell a new one when it's time.
Oh, I love that. That's beautiful. That's so beautiful. Well, Kelly, thank you for your honesty and your courage to have this conversation with me. It means more than you know. And to you listening, I hope these 2 episodes remind you that healing is possible, if not for anyone else but yourself, even if it doesn't happen overnight. We've actually, Kelly and I, been working on something together behind the scenes, a project just for co-moms like us. It's a way to put these conversations onto paper, and we will be sharing more about it soon. But the truth is, growth doesn't happen in comfort. It happens in those shaky, scary places where we'd rather not visit because it's easier in the moment. But change happens when we choose to lean in, to surrender, and let go of the need to control. Let go of trying to be right or trying to prove your co-parent is the bad guy. For what? If you're walking through conflict with your co-parent, I want to encourage you. Don't run from the uncomfortable conversations because that is where change is born. It's not easy, and sometimes it's downright scary, but your kids are worth it. Your peace is worth it, and so are you. Keep showing up. Keep choosing respect. And as always, you're doing better than you think. I'm Jody Grace, and this is Co-Parenting with Grace.